Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Sorry about the technical difficulties in the first one, but we are back now with the actual severe weather stream discussing the potential of tornadoes across the potentially portions of the plains this weekend. That was a little bit of a crazy 10 minutes for y'all who were tuning in then, but now we are back and I have fixed the issue. So we can start getting into models and the SPC outlooks over the next couple of days. Yo. Yes, yo, what is up? It is that was certainly something. To be honest, I don't even know what you guys were hearing, but what all I know I was hearing was literally nothing. So let's get right into the models here. Today we have a slight or an enhanced risk actually across portions of Texas and Oklahoma, specifically northern Texas, getting kind of up into the panhandle of Steubenville, Ohio on Saturday. I would not bank on it. We don't exactly know the threats for Saturday yet, especially across Ohio and that area. That's going to be mainly re-intensification of Friday's convection, potentially maybe a secondary batch forming along the cold front, as we'll discuss in a little bit. But there is a slight risk in that area. Non-SIG, no SIG 1 or SIG 2 for that risk. There's a SIG 1 risk for the southern slight risk in Texas. Like I said, we'll discuss that after we finish up discussing today and Friday. But yeah, Saturday is definitely a threat for potentially damaging winds, a couple tornadoes, and some hail across maybe the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley region. I was hoping it would work. Yeah, I know, me too. That was so whatever just happened there. That was a little weird. Kind of started acting up 3 minutes before the stream started, and I was like, oh, crap. But I believe I fixed it by moving to a more, maybe just a better area for the Wi-Fi in general. So hopefully that works, but let's get right into today. Here's the HRRR model, and we can see just a couple hours from now, about 3 hours or so, maybe 2 if we're getting a little ambiguous, but some discrete supercells are expected to kind of fire along this little area here along a dry line across portions of northern Texas. That area could see potentially some discrete cells capable of producing tornadoes, damaging winds, and especially hail. Those are the main threats for today. Kind of all threats on the table for today and tomorrow. Specifically today, I'm more worried about that discrete nature of the cells. You can see here, look at the HRR, mainly discrete, doesn't really organize into a line until maybe later on tonight, when we might see a bit of an organization into a more linear mode in potentially portions of west central Oklahoma, getting into the Oklahoma City area by the time we reach very early morning tomorrow. So that's kind of what we're expecting for today's risk overall. Not insanely not too bad, but we could definitely see, especially along that dry line here where that sets up, potentially some heavy wind gusts here from these storms. Actually, wind isn't necessarily the biggest threat. It's more hail, but we might see potentially some strong downdrafts, so I would not be surprised. How bad will it be for Dover, Arkansas on Friday? On Friday, which we are just now about to get into, let's take a look at that risk actually I just clicked the same sector. That's hilarious. For potentially the Ozarks and the Arklatex region. Let's look at the southern mode first, since we do have if you're watching from down there, we could see a potentially more cellular mode in portions of western Arkansas on Friday. This is going to be mainly in between 10, maybe 8 p.m. Some of those first cells starting to fire up around 6 to 8 p.m. But the main threat should be between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. on Saturday. That's going to be the main threat for northwestern Arkansas. And it's kind of going to evolve into a pretty big line of storms there as we get into Saturday morning. That could continue, potentially bring some flooding risk, as those storms will be training across central Arkansas, maybe some flooding risk for Little Rock, getting kind of close to Memphis as we get throughout the day. Memphis over here, you could see that line start to progress into your area by kind of the noon hour on Saturday. Overall threats for Arkansas on Saturday, mainly damaging wind, but especially with those early cells, I wouldn't be surprised if we see maybe a couple instances of hail and possibly an isolated tornado or two, especially since northwestern Arkansas is on the edge of that risk there. We look at our supercell composite. This is kind of a composite parameter that mixes a bunch of ingredients together in that risk area, and then especially tomorrow, that wow, especially as we get up in there into Kansas, maybe closer to where that low pressure, or not where the low pressure, but where more convergence is going to be setting up across that area in Kansas. Jonesboro, Arkansas here. A lot of people watching from Arkansas. Huh? Yeah, Arkansas. What we do see a little bit of, especially as that daytime heating, it loses energy as it gets into Arkansas, but definitely some instances of damaging winds, large hail, and maybe a couple tornadoes are possible in Arkansas for tomorrow night. I would not be surprised to see that at all. Yeah, like I said, a discrete mode at first, kind of maybe some messy discrete storms, and then transitioning into a line of thunderstorms with damaging wind potential across Arkansas. That's what I think. Let's go over the northern mode now across Indiana, Illinois, or not Indiana, but Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, and Iowa. Let's go over that now. So let's have a look here. As we get into tomorrow, we can see this kind of first batch. This is going to be mainly along the warm front as it pushes to the north. We usually see that kind of rain, and that's going to die off during the day. But this is what we kind of want to watch here. We'll see a line of cells start to develop here in Iowa as we get through the day on Friday, specifically in the evening hours. And we're going to see that kind of progress to the north as we get through the day. It's going to go to the northeast a little bit, and one thing I am noticing, these storms don't look all that intense in this area. It's I don't know. They don't look all too intense. They look a little elevated in nature, possibly. I think our main tornado risk for tomorrow is going to be in two areas. One, down here in portions of northeastern Oklahoma, southeastern or southwestern Missouri, and northwestern Arkansas. Very far northwest Arkansas, and even stretching into portions of southern Missouri. I think that's going to be where the highest tornado threat sits. There's a second threat across portions of northern Iowa, I think, and maybe even a small risk across portions of that warm front region. If we can get some thunderstorms firing on that warm front in Wisconsin and western Michigan, I wouldn't be surprised to possibly see an isolated tornado there. There is actually an SPC outlook with a SIG 1 risk, a 2% SIG 1 for portions of that region, actually, is this kind of warm frontal convection goes there throughout the day. Let's look at our SCP, the supercell composite parameter for tomorrow across those areas. And as we can see here, yeah, pretty high values there across. And you see the warm front region there in southwest Michigan. We have values stretching up over 6. And along the northern portion of that warm front in Iowa, it's not all too intense. Actually, the highest values are going to be in Kansas there. So if we get any storms developing out there in Kansas, that's where we could see potentially our highest amount. That's also where our highest convective available potential energy is, especially there in northern Oklahoma and Kansas there. Those areas, I think that's where our highest tornado threat's going to be sitting. I think they have that 10% SIG 1 risk outlined in that area, actually. So that's generally our risks for Saturday. Let's get in Saturday. Wow. Let's get into Sunday's risk here. So on Friday. Sorry, guys. That is very unfortunate. So on Saturday, this continues to rapidly push to the east across portions of the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley. This is where we're expected to see our main risk on Saturday. Let's select the mid-Atlantic sector here to kind of view what we think is going to happen. This is the HRRR. This doesn't go all the way, so we may have to start using the NAM-ST model as we get into Saturday, but this is what the HRRR is kind of thinking. Let's go to our simulated reflectivity. From what I remember, I believe the HRRR was predicting this line to kind of wane, but then kind of re-intensify a little bit in some areas there. And we're going to have to take a look at the NAMPS because this doesn't exactly go out all the way. The NAMPS has a little bit of a different solution, actually, for Friday. That main line dies off pretty quickly and actually allows for maybe some intensification of a second line back here along the cold front, and maybe some prefrontal storms as well across portions of Pennsylvania, heading up there into the upper northern New York state region as well. Portions of the Great Lakes, let's get further into that marginal risk here across Ohio and Indiana. That would mainly be for this kind of line here, but maybe a secondary batch of kind of multi-cell clusters they're developing in portions of eastern Ohio. But I'd say our main risk for tomorrow is going to be kind of anywhere west of Columbus to about west of Albany. That's where our main risk is going to be situated for tomorrow. Now, after tomorrow, the things get a little more uncertain as we get into Sunday, Monday, but Tuesday is perhaps our most interesting day, I want to say. So let's take a look at the entire CONUS. CONUS here for Tuesday. So, whoops. There we go. Select sector selection, and here we go. Let's take a look at what potentially could be, as we do already have a day 6 15% outlined for portions of the southern Great Plains, which is kind of where we saw yesterday's risk kind of combined with today and tomorrow. That entire area might get affected by some storms on Tuesday. And let's take a look at this here. Let's go to our dew points here to see how this kind of warm air plume, wow, really stretched out warm sector here, all the way from portions of the East Coast all the way out to Kansas and stretching as far north as Chicago here. So let's take a look here. That cold front that sweeps through the region on Friday and Saturday doesn't fully get all the way down. We kind of still have some of that Gulf moisture swinging into southern Texas. And this cutoff low, which I'll show you in a sec, that is kind of stuck, has been displaced by this little small trough that's cutting through. This cutoff low is going to try to eject off to the northeast, and that is going to spawn another potential severe weather threat next week. Now, how this cutoff low interacts with the jet stream, we don't know yet. But if we do have a look here, it's likely that it will spring up some moisture kind of in similar areas that are experiencing severe weather over the next couple of days. I had to switch channels. This is Sick Team. Oh, hello. So we take a look here on Tuesday and into Wednesday morning. A second weaker cold front, it does eventually push through the area, but it kind of takes its time a little bit. But a second cold front kind of stretches through the region, and this is where we expect our severe weather threat to be. We're going to go through two things, the CSU MLP learning model, and we're also going to take a look at the NSSL experimental model to kind of take a look at where that severe weather may be setting up on Tuesday. The Cape is going to be anywhere between 1,000 and 2,000, potentially over 500 in some spots, and where we're expecting that precipitation is kind of going to be along maybe a line here stretching, maybe first in the afternoon across portions of the southern Great Plains where that risk is outlined, and maybe a secondary threat in the evening across portions, maybe stretching into the Ozarks later on in the nighttime. But that might get into Wednesday, and Wednesday could be a whole another thing for Dixie Alley and portions of the lower Ohio Valley. So we'll discuss that more in depth here, but let's take a look at our CSU learning model here. Whoop. Let this alone. State University Machine Learning. Here it is. So this is today. This is kind of it's just a model. It's kind of an estimate based off of the SBC CSU comparison is broken. Oh, that's interesting. I did not see that. I have not checked that today for some reason. So maybe I'll have a look at that in a second. But we can see here today's risk has a max prob is 4.9% that this would equate to. This is 0.049, so that's 4.9%. The max probability on here is 30.3%, and the max probability for wind is 12.8% on the CSU learning model. This is, like I said, a learning model, so this doesn't mean exactly we should be trusting this all the time. But let's have a look at tomorrow's risk. And we can see two areas, just like I mentioned, Kansas, Missouri, and portions of Oklahoma. And that secondary risk, this one is a little more prevalent across portions of Wisconsin, Ohio, or Iowa, and stretching there into the Chicago metro as well. Let's get the latest run in. That looks a little more accurate to what I've been seeing on the models. This is the more latest one at 12Z, and this one's got it more centered over Iowa, Missouri, and a secondary threat there across portions of western Arkansas. So we will be watching that very closely. And as for Saturday's threat, we can get into the hazards. The aggregate potential probability is a little broken right now. And as I mentioned there, kind of anywhere, I'd say a little more west of Youngstown, Ohio, or east of Youngstown, Ohio. And yeah, like I said, west of Albany, New York. Potentially the Buffalo area getting into some severe weather, maybe, after they had a pretty impactful lake effect snow season. And then we also have a potential tornado threat stretching across the Great Lakes, and maybe a second one across portions of the Dixie Alley region, and maybe a little bit south of the Ozarks as well. And as for the medium range on day 4, our risk is, well, there we go. On day 4, our risk is going to be mainly looks like shunted to the south, as that moisture, as I said before, is going to be mainly stuck to the south until that cutoff low makes its way. And here we go, Tuesday. This is potentially the big threat here. Looking at the SPC, they have a risk outline from Missouri all the way down to Austin, I'd say. Maybe St. Louis down to Austin, let's say. St. Louis is actually a little bit outside of it, but I'm just giving a rough estimate here. So, and as for the CSU learning model, it has a risk all the way from portions of Michigan down to Texas, with the highest threat actually being here in central northern Michigan, along potentially near Flint and the Tri-Cities area. So that's something to watch for the anywhere in the yellow and red, maybe even the kind of brownish color. Those areas going to watch that pretty carefully over the next couple of days. Let's look at some of the more advanced things, like some of the synoptics to this event and maybe some ensembles as well. So let's have a look at this. Actually, I was going to show you one more thing. I could not show you the other day because I couldn't find it. But I did find it. See, NSSL research on. So here is the day 1 ML total severe probability. And it's mainly focused where our enhanced risk is across portions of northern Texas and western Oklahoma. Those are going to be our main areas to watch. And as we push this through a couple days, and that's tomorrow's risk, mainly centered across Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, those areas mainly going to get into the severe weather threat tomorrow. As for Thursday, or geez, I can't get days right, can I? As for Saturday, Ohio and portions of the southeast or south, kind of the southern United States in general, between maybe Jackson, Mississippi through Shreveport, or not Shreveport, southern Arkansas, northern Louisiana. Wait, yes, Shreveport, that would be. And portions of Texas as well. And then on Sunday, that risk shifts south. But when we get to Tuesday, that time frame, we can see the biggest risk here where that SPC risk is outlined between Missouri, Kansas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, with another risk kind of stretched out between Michigan down to the southern Texas border there. So we'll watch that pretty closely as well. Now, as I said before, let's actually get into the kind of what this trough is going to do, this cutoff low that I was talking about just a second ago. So, wow, we got 10 minutes or so. So here is, give it a sec. Give it a sec. There we go. Here is the mean wind. Here is what our troublemaker is going to be for today. We have this kind of tiny little trough here, this jet streak that's kind of coming from this pretty big trough overall. It's a little slightly positively tilted, and it's more positively tilted across this area. But this little small jet streak that is kind of developed is going to be our troublemaker for today as well as tomorrow. So today is kind of, we're not going to see a lot of that forcing from the trough, but it is kind of in our exit region. But tomorrow, especially, that trough is going to build in, and that's where our main troublemaker trough. But look closely here. This trough is going to kind of stretch a little bit, and we're going to see a second trough here, this cutoff low, break away as we get into the late Saturday timeframe. Exactly how it does this is a little unknown. I'm Jonesboro, and I'm most concerned for Saturday and Tuesday. Yeah, if you'd be in that portion of Arkansas, I'd mainly be concerned for Friday, Saturday, and Tuesday, not necessarily today. We'll get into more risks especially as we get closer to the event. We'll be able to discuss that more in detail, of more briefings, more videos for you guys on that, actually, on these severe weather events, maybe some live coverage for Saturday, as I will be available for most of the day then. So yeah, Friday night, yeah. That sounds just about right, but let's watch this cutoff low very carefully here. You can see it kind of gets shunted to the south and does basically nothing for a couple of days. But as we head into that Tuesday, late Monday, it's going to slowly start to eject to the northeast. But on Tuesday, it's going to kind of merge with that jet stream up here and create kind of a classic troughing situation here for portions of the United States, eastern U.S. Now, exactly how it does this, like we said, we don't know. There's a lot of model spread, especially if we look at the spaghetti plot. Just look at how much model spread there is here. All these lines are different. Overall, we're kind of starting to get a general picture of what it might look like. I'm currently seeing two scenarios right now, honestly. I'll break these down for you right now with the paint tool. I love this paint tool so much. All right. Here are my two most probable scenarios. Let's just go to the mean temperature. So give us something like a base map, basically. Actually, I'm going to go to the snow right now. So, okay. Wait, mean snow. That's what I meant to do. Okay. I just want a blank map of the U.S. Holy shoot. So, here we go. Don't worry about that snow. This is not important. I just need a blank map to show you. Here are two scenarios. At the exact same time as this cutoff low is going to be heading into the U.S., there is going to be kind of another low pressure up here, and it's going to be pushing a cold front down at the same time. There's going to be kind of maybe two potential low pressures here, kind of causing that severe weather threat on Tuesday. One down here and one up here. Now, this also could not happen. What could happen is we see this low pressure and this low pressure kind of majorly split out into a huge banana low. And this could potentially fire a new low pressure over here as we get into our Wednesday timeframe, but that's not necessarily important. All I'm saying is these two low pressures are kind of going to be potentially stretching each other, and that could cause a potentially widespread severe weather threat across portions of those areas. But our second scenario is that this low pressure swings down, brings that cold air to the south, goes far enough away that we get this main low pressure really get going. This could be deepening quite rapidly, and we see a more substantial severe weather threat across maybe the areas that the SPC outlined. Now, so we could also see a mix of the two. We see these two low pressures combined. We get something like this. We get a warm front up here, cold front down here, maybe a dry line in there somewhere, and we could get a major severe weather threat across many areas across portions of the eastern U.S. But those are the two scenarios that I'm seeing are most likely at this time, though details will get more specific as we get closer to the event. So that's overall what I think. Let's go a little bit into the extended range here as we enter the kind of end portion of our stream. Go to that mean wind and take a look at our trough. So you can see that cutoff low down there swings off to the east, kind of combines with this secondary trough that's kind of building in at the exact same time. Overall, we're going to kind of go back to a winter-like pattern after this subsides. There is some small hints at maybe another threat potentially on maybe from the 15th to the 18th timeframe, but we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. And we can see some overall troughing across the eastern U.S. as well as ridging across the western U.S. as we get into the late March timeframe on the ensemble. That means we're going to see a lot of cold air. This is unfortunate for any spring lovers here. Stretch into the eastern U.S., bringing some slightly below average temperatures, as the Climate Prediction Center did mention in the believe it was the 8 to 14 day forecast. And as we head towards the western US, you guys are going to get some heat again, and maybe it will start to change as we get towards the late March timeframe, but that's what it's looking like as of now. And I don't believe I actually went over the severe weather threats from the SPC in particular. Let's do that. You know, guys, okay. All right, here we go. Let's let's go over the SPC. I was worried it was going to. Hmm. Interesting. All right, let's just go back. All right, folks. Congrats to my computer for deciding to act up for no reason every single time I open the SPC. So let's just look at today's threat, because honestly, why not? So here we go. Let's go more in depth on it. Stop sharing for that one. Okay. Let's go over today's threat in depth. Yeah, sorry about the lag, folks. That's really weird right now. So laggy, kind of hoping that pattern flips after that cold air. I like spring, not cold rain. Honestly, same dude. I love the spring and especially the summer. I am from Florida, so I'm kind of used to the summer weather. I don't currently live there though. So I'm used to the summer weather. So trust me, I feel ya. So let's look over here to our where is it? I'm trying to find the sectors here. I forget. Oh, here we go. Let's go to the sub-regional sector. See if we get some across, or maybe yeah. Let's go with these ones. Whoa. Okay. All right. That's nice. So let's look at our satellite currently across the L computer. I know right now I'm not at a nice computer right now. That's why I haven't been able to upload as much or stream as much as I usually do. Like how a few days ago I was uploading a lot more. Currently, I am not on a very good computer right now. It's really stupid. So yeah, I just wanted to at least get something out for you guys because I know there's a pretty big severe weather threat right now. So I will be at my better computer shortly, however, in a couple of days. So that will help that out quite a bit, hopefully. So here is the cloud cover currently. We're seeing a lot of some cirrostratus here, maybe, and we're starting to see some of those little bubbly cumulus clouds that we tend to see on these dry line severe weather days. And we even see, maybe that's honestly, we kind of see the dry line here. This little band of cumulus clouds, that is kind of where our dry line is set up right now. But mainly our severe weather threat is going to be focused here. And we already actually see a thunderstorm firing over Texas right now. That's kind of, that could be a cell that ends up going into the, are you going to live stream the threat today and tomorrow as it happens? Tomorrow I have to work in the nighttime hours, unfortunately, so I won't be able to. During the day I have school, and then I'd say there is a chance if any severe weather goes crazy within the next couple of hours, I might be able to stream tonight's threat and I will be able to stream Saturday's threat as well. I'll definitely be streaming that, and I will also be streaming Tuesday. And if any severe weather affects my area, I might be going. I don't currently have a car, but I might be going bike chasing on Tuesday. I love doing that. So yeah, that is kind of the plan over the next couple of days. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I understand. So, all right. It's been about 30 minutes of streaming here. Let's quickly go over what we might be seeing. Let's look at the current CAPE across the areas using our product overlays tool. So, currently seeing 1,000, 2,000 CAPE, maybe up to 2,500 across those areas, dew points, and getting into the 60 there across the eastern portions of that risk area. And the supercell composite parameter, this is kind of what we were talking about earlier, that composite parameter that kind of measures the potential for supercells. We're getting values generally over 1 across our severe weather threat right now, which isn't like crazy, but it's also not necessarily we're not into the severe weather threat, so we don't really have to worry about it. Let's look at our composite radar overlay. Hello, little dude plays gaming. We are just about to wrap up the stream. If you want to see the forecast, you can look back at it. I provided some details on the potential severe weather threat for the next few days as well as into the future. Currently, I'm having a look at what is going on right now across portions of Texas. Maybe I can open up a radar app and kind of cover this little cell here for a little bit before about 5:10. I'll stop it. Let me pull up a radar here. Let's get let's for now let's go with Attic. Attic radar is a pretty decent radar app, or radar on for the browser at least. I like it. Generally, obviously, I recommend now. So let's just stick with Attic for now. Let's do it. Oh, whoops! That's not the internet. I just accidentally stopped freaking sharing. All right, let's fix this up. This is going a little crazy after all. All right, what's going on? Is it doing it again? Uh-oh. Okay, second thought, you know what? I think we're about to wrap it up because, dang, this internet is not cooperating with me. Let's go through the last couple of comments, though. So, I am in a marginal risk on day 3, and Little Dude Gaming says, I'm in no risk zone. Yeah, if you're in any risk for any of these days, you should probably, watch out because even a marginal risk can create some pretty insane weather events. You never know. So, even if you're in just a level 1 out of 5 marginal risk or in an enhanced risk, you definitely should be taking action, have a plan, have a way to get alerts from the National Weather Service, no weather radios, your cell phone, obviously, and the internet are great sources, honestly, for getting severe weather alerts for any days. But a little dude plays game. I'm glad you're in no risk zone. I believe I'm in a marginal risk for day 3, so that could be upgraded to a slight based off the models that I'm seeing. So we'll see how that goes. So yeah, thanks for watching, folks. And Davis, I've been one of your first subscribers. If you've seen my comments, oh, sick. Yeah, that's nice. Hopefully, I mean, this channel is currently growing at a pretty good rate. I haven't really talked about it, but I know I used to have like 70 subscribers over just a couple weeks ago, and I got like 400 something, I think. So I'm kind of glad with how the channel's going so far, and I have a lot of improvements coming, especially as we head further into the season. So stay tuned for that, y'all. I will see y'all in the next one, and have a great rest of your day, and good luck with the severe weather, especially for tonight. I might be streaming some of it, though, so you may see me later on today. You may not. I will see y'all in the next one. Thank you, and good evening.